Hello everybody, welcome to the Let's Play Combat Mission Barbarossa to Berlin. Christmas Battle Final. I'm playing this once again because in the first go at it, I forgot to enable Fog of War, and yeah, it made for a really funny scenario where I was able to identify every enemy unit in the midst of Blizzard, so I mean that is not really realistic. I remember also disabling the Fog of War in Winter Wonderland, but unfortunately nobody brought it to my attention, and I got fooled. I just let it go and just pretend it didn't exist or something. Here, I'm just deciding whether to put the Fog of War to extreme or full. I decided on the extreme because, you know, this blizzard, extreme condition, extreme coldness, extreme weather. So, half expected to also see some real fog in the area, like fog. Sorry if I kind of sound like I'm swearing, but fog in the area is, you know, volumetric fog. But I guess fortunately for me, there isn't fog effect. So I guess it might have slowed down the machine further. Maybe the scenario designer didn't want the fog there because he may have slowed down his computer back in 2002. I'm playing this like 16 by 1200. That's the highest maximum allowable resolution, I think. And still impressive, you know, it kind of runs smooth, even though it has like all this snow effect going on in the background. Yeah, so no volumetric fog, but I cannot see any Italians in the buildings anymore, so they're going to place the unit as they choose. It's going to be different this time. Yeah, you cannot really see these guys anymore. They're in the building, definitely, especially near the objective flag, but I cannot really see them. And I don't think they can see me as well, so it goes both ways. And yeah, I remember in the last go at it, in my first go at it, the Italians were able to see my troops clearly, as I could see them. That's why they let loose with their artillery and was accurately hit the whole group of guys. I don't know whether this time around they will be reserving that option for a while as we get closer. Yeah, checking out the rocky terrain that can be used for cover and to get even closer to the objectives. From the manual also I checked these different types of cover, and apparently rocky cover is actually similar to rough terrain but allows vehicle passage through it. And I'm also checking the line of sight, and you can see that it doesn't extend beyond around 100 meters. So it's pretty limited, and I guess thanks to the extreme fog of war, I think even though I am able to identify some unit within this line of sight, it's going to be difficult to really get the sense of what you know, the unit is about. It could be anti-tank unit, it could be some machine gun unit. Yeah, so you have to be very careful. For the movement, in the first 10 turns, it's going to be very similar to the one that I attempted last time. It's going to be just going for the flanks, going to the nearest cover as fast as possible. Here I'm starting out in the cover because I learned my lesson last time of having been targeted the first turn. And also, for our side, we're going to be targeting the artillery in the first turn because it's a bit different how it works. Here is that... Where is that artillery spotter? There is an artillery spotter among these guys. And you can see that we are trying to use the rough patch here, rough cover, in order to take on the right flank. Extreme right. Yeah, so this is how we started. Not really that different from the first attempt. And you can see I cannot see anybody here. I'm just checking just to make sure the buildings, nobody is really identified. Extreme weather, extreme visibility or lack thereof. Yeah, nobody's here. It's really quiet. Snow's falling everywhere. The river is frozen. The winter wasteland. Yeah, okay. They're all ready to go, machine guns and all. And need to decide whether to I think it's going to be the same. Yeah, same march toward that objective. It's not really that different. Did I say that it's not going to be any different? I think I mentioned it a couple of times already, so I think you will see very soon how I organize things. Yeah, you can see the move to contact. And the yellow line up there means that I'm starting with the bang, artillery. So it's a bit different dynamics here. The last time I tried to use the artillery to target anything, it took me 17 turns to do it. But here, if you start out with it, it just takes 1 second. And this guy apparently has a plan, 1 second plan. I'm kind of curious what this really entails. Whether really the artillery will start falling within the second of me starting this turn, or yeah, I haven't really faced with that kind of usage, and I'm kind of curious how accurate the artillery is going to be. Maybe if I target the, you know, the church from the beginning, then I maybe have to scatter the enemy defenses a bit, throw them for a loop, and yeah, other move to contact here. I mean, from my experience first playing this scenario, I don't think move to contact is that useful, because I know for sure that the Italians will not be anywhere, you know, outside of the building, so move to contact really doesn't matter because nobody is going to see them until they reach at least 100 meters within the road. Oh my goodness. So here we go, the artillery is blanketing the whole area. And you can see how wide that net is. Yeah, it is basically shaking the earth right where we are is starting point. And you can see some of them landing near the road. I don't know whether it's actually affecting the defenses. I don't think so. It's not really tight at all. I mean, look at that. Look at the strewn pattern. Wide pattern that almost damaged our guys. I'm not checking whether any of these wayward artillery shells damaged our own guys for any fire. I don't really see anybody, you know, shaken or being damaged or anything like that. They're just moving without any trouble. So I guess we dodged the blood there. But yeah, that artillery strike was a total failure in my opinion. Didn't really land remotely close to where I set the artillery target. And apparently the artillery spotter had a plan, but the plan was thrown to the winds, because I mean the wind was just going really crazy. And apparently it really affected the effectiveness here. But if I started to target the artillery after the first turn, then it might have taken like 18 minutes or so, and then in 18 minutes we'd be way closer to the target itself. So I mean, if we were caught in the radius of this artillery strike, then we may have been way worse off. I guess it's a bit of a yeah, fortunate that I was able to just let it loose and then learn, you know, what it is all about, because it might have been pretty bad if I activated it later. Okay, so we are basically following a similar path here. A couple of units toward the river to try to, you know, trace along the bank, see whether there is any enemy presence, whether we can coax the enemy to get out of its position, or, you know, shoot, revealing its position. But for the most part, we are just walking, just moving. Yeah, moving. And yeah, okay, so this guy got damaged in the last artillery strike. So, I mean, I didn't get unscathed here. This guy got hurt by that. You can see the crater that landed nearby that damaged it. So yeah, I mean, that was pretty poorly placed artillery strike, and it's better to just forget it. Yeah. Maybe it was just there to fool us or something into some kind of complacency. The Italians have not fired their artillery yet. They haven't counter-fired. I guess they're saving it up for when we get close. But from my I mean, their artillery strike was very, very accurate and very close-knit. So I don't know what happened with the Russian artillery here. Maybe it's a different type of artillery gun or experience level. I don't know what to expect, but I mean, that's the first artillery I got got to use as a Soviet force, and really didn't amount to much. On all front, we are moving similarly, yeah, I think that's the way to go. They get tired really easily, so I mean, yeah. So just continuing on to their destination. It's going to take a few turns to get to the destination and have better idea of what to do. And as you can see, all these buildings brimming with Italian defenders, not really showing themselves. I don't think they can see us as well. One thing that is rather I'm kind of anticipating is that the Italians will have their own reserve of armor, so they're going to activate it down the road. Curious what it would be. Maybe the Germans will also provide some panzers to the forces, and going to add a bit of element of desperation, I guess. If we get to face the armor when we are about to take the objective. But this is kind of condition that I'm not going to face a lot, so it's a very rare occasion, I guess. Maybe not that rare. There will be plenty of winter battles to come. Yeah, so here I'm just foregoing the showing of the movement patterns or planning. Turn 4, just continuing on to their destination. Nothing really has changed that much. Yeah, it seems that in this kind of... I mean, I don't know whether this is how I feel, but I think they're a lot quieter than before. They don't shout as much. Yeah, they know that this is kind of... yeah, they need to keep the stealth up, or they need to keep quiet. Or just too cold to speak or something. I mean, I think so. Yeah, this guy is making a pretty brisk trip to the next set of rough cover here. Yeah, toward that direction. Okay, so just continuing on, pushing ahead to the next cover. These rough patches will be very useful. It's not going to be that useful for the vehicle, but for men, going to provide a pretty good cover and also protection. Better than scattered trees. Better protection than scattered trees. I was surprised to learn. I thought that scattered trees might be a bit better, but yeah, rough patches seems to be, I mean, in terms of defensive and cover, a bit better than scattered trees. But tall pines probably are better than rough patches. And yeah, other rocky terrain. So yeah, using the river to trace our, I guess, next movement. They're scouting ahead a bit. Here as well, one of the units are sneaking out to see whether they can see better and whether they can identify some structures such as barbed wire, and maybe if we're lucky we're able to see some enemy. You can see the MG is kind of trailing. I don't mind it because MG should arrive a bit later. Yeah, alright, so some of the groups have already arrived and they're just waiting. I'm sure that there's some Italians in here for sure. Okay, still going there to the rough terrain and going to sneak into the cover. I don't think it really matters, but I mean, it's better to err on the side of caution. Yeah, so I don't know how many camera angles I can get of the walking troop, but here I go. Yeah, everybody's walking. Nobody's idling. Yeah, for green troops, they move pretty quickly in the snow. It's pretty cool. Now they are sneaking. As you can see, they're just falling onto the ground, making themselves scars. And always have to make sure that commanding officer, commanding unit is basically within the earshot or within the visual range of the other troops that is commanding. It's going to help, I guess, in some cases to confer the bonuses that commanding officers have. Yeah, so they already arrived in turn 7. Out of 38 turns, most of it is going to be involved in some crazy battles, I guess, very confused battles. Need to keep the troops a bit separate too, because there's definite possibility of friendly fire when things get pretty hot. Yeah, so this guy's sneaking out, and the line of sight is still not there. Yeah, 108 is probably the maximum, 105 to 108. You're looking up toward the road. So I guess being with higher terrain offers you a better line of sight, or better line of sight percentage to hit, which is indicated by the color of the green line. So you can see the green line as it extends into line of sight. The darker green means that it is rather poor sight. As the green gets lighter, it gets better percentage. So even though we are able to identify these guys in the building, it's going to be pretty difficult to actually accurately aim at the units, because the color of the line suggests that we are looking up, and it's not going to be that great. Yeah, so all these guys are moving toward this rough cover, and that is where I'm going to be ending up as we make an assault. It's going to be a long time in coming though, as the rest of the group trying to still travel to be in position to do that. Yeah, maybe I'm going to attempt some human wave in short burst. These guys are probably at the extent of their cover, where I feel truly safe and out of the line of sight of the Italians. Yeah, I mean, the most of the real push toward the enemy lines is going to happen when the vehicles arrive and the tanks arrive, and I'm going to have to bring them to front lines, and it's going to be another few turns of that. Yeah, so this is a riverbank, frozen. It's going to divide our forces into two, largely into two, especially when it concerns vehicles, because they cannot cross it. Alright, so MGs are making its way out of the rough cover or brush. Yeah, most of them have arrived in the south here. Yeah, they are ready to wait for the vehicle or reinforcements in order to truly make the push. And this crawling is going to sap a lot of energy, especially the MGs. They get tired very easily in this when they are crawling or being, sneaky. Yeah, that was a pretty good trip. And I don't know whether the Italians will see us and then let loose with artillery strike, but yeah, always wondering when it's going to arrive. And bring the rest of the guys in the south to be in the rough cover. And measuring with the line of sight here. Yeah, it is definitely within the line of sight, these close buildings. The buildings closest to us. I think that's going to the weak point. Because last time I played it, and I really shouldn't use the knowledge from the first attempt here, but last time I seen this map with everything uncovered, most of the mines and barbed wire, I think that we saw that just now, those were concentrated on the flanks, so the enemy was worried about the infiltration on the flanks, but I don't know about now, of course, but I kind of expect a similar type of setup. That, yeah, like barbed wire there is going to be present more and more near the flanks, and the rest of it is not going to be that well defended in terms of, you know, dog-in placement of mines and other obstacles. So yeah, you can see some rocky. It's kind of hard to differentiate between the rocky cover and snow-covered, snow-blanketed ground, but it is there, so we can make use of it if we can. Yeah, these guys are almost all in place, but we are waiting for certain units to arrive, especially MGs. And here, I guess the reserves are still waiting. Alright, so turn 8. Yeah, these guys are in reserves, I think, waiting, and you can see the crater of where the artillery strike was. I mean, it's really wide and widespread and really not accurate at all. And these guys are walking slowly. I mean, from this position, I think line of sight is there. So I wonder what could have been if it was not like snowing crazy. Maybe we were able to attack right where we are, but because it is, you know, blizzard condition, we are able to just get close as much as possible without being seen or being attacked.
Так, осторожно.
Yeah. Yeah, they're really being quiet. And very snowy. Yeah, a lot of snow. Sky is blue, but you know, I mean, it's snowing. Okay, so still moving a lot of troops. I wonder when the reinforcements will arrive. In the first attempt, I guess they arrived near turn 9 or turn 10. So it's getting close. Going to be a lot more fun, I promise you. We have to look at the infantry walking anymore. Maybe I should have just cut some of these turns off, but you know, I just want to be as complete as possible as I'm also editing this episode. If I just cut and paste here and there, I might get confused and mix up the whole turns and everything, so I just had to put everything in. And hopefully you make use of the timeline and timestamps. Here I'm measuring the line of sight once again. It's rather getting close. And I can see the barbed wire there. I wonder if there are more barbed wires to prevent us from getting close. I think the vehicles will have no trouble, you know, blasting through, just rumbling through and opening the way for the infantry. And I think it destroys barbed wire if it crosses it, so I can hope to see that. Yeah, so near the riverbank, we are getting really close to the buildings, probably serving as bunkers uphill. And there's a bridge here, so it'd be really nice to capture the bridge and then let the other vehicles as they finish off the, or I don't know, hopefully finish off the defenders in the south, rumble to trying to link up with the rest of guys in the north using the bridge. And here, yeah, still waiting for the other guys to make it to the cover.
Следи за флангами.
Yeah, can't believe the Italians cannot see us. I mean, they're regular troops and must be more experienced in spotting enemy. And you can see the rocky terrain there we are hiding in. And the barbed wire. And this guy's sneaking to the edge of the rocky cover.
Посмотри, что там?
Yeah. And the MG is following it, but it's going to get tired, so I don't think I can keep it up for more than a few turns. Okay, so checking whether we have discovered or uncovered any enemy units. Doesn't seem like it. Yeah. It's just amassing troops without committing anybody to an early attack. I just like to try to do combined attack using the tanks and men at the same time to maximize the effect. I guess that's better to do that rather than, you know, piecemeal attack using the infantry. But the scenario briefing did mention, oh okay, so reinforcement arrived. Scenario briefing mentioned, or was it operational briefing, that we should try to get some of these guys out before the vehicles arrive and exploit the weaknesses. But yeah, obviously I'm not going to do that. I'm going to use the, you know, vehicle and men at the same time in order to maximize the effect of, you know, overwhelming the defenses. Maybe because due to the fact that I already know or understand the makeup of the Italian defense, it must, you know, I kind of have a prior knowledge. But you know, I think even in my first attempt, I was not really that sure about using the infantry and committing it to attack without any vehicle support. So here we are, a mix of T-26 and T-34s. They're moving to try to exploit the flank once again, using all the, you know, there's some troops there. They'll be able to make contact also. So they're going to get as close as possible within the cover of rough terrain. And yeah, so rest of the reserves here will be committed to get as close as possible as they wait the vehicles to come down and then cover their advances. Right, so here we're not really moving at all. I'm using one squad to move ahead and try to cross the road there. But here's where the action is, and you see a lot of vehicles moving. Finally, turn 10. Yeah. And vehicles, I mean the tanks will travel in some kind of group, but I have to make sure that they travel at the, you know, similar time frame. And some of the tanks are regular experience, so they move quicker. And if they're quick, then may cause a bit of problem in moving smoothly. And okay, so I uncover another barbed wire, so it's going to be it's going to restrict the access of the infantry. Yeah, I have to uncover more of that in order to really fully figure out what to do. And you can see some of the tanks are moving a bit faster than the rest of the tank here, because the T-34s and T-26, some of them are regular experience, so they're moving a bit quicker, responding to commands a bit faster. Yeah, okay, so second group of reinforcements. So it did arrive just right after the other. So let's check. And it's a bigger group. Yeah, so it's a bigger group. Has like T-20, T-37 tanket. It's not really much of a... it doesn't really afford much of a protection. It's, I think, even worse than the German half-track. Maybe similar, but it's worse because... yeah, I think it's not going to be that much of a force. Maybe just a scout car or something. But here, yeah, we have a KB-1, the heaviest tank ever in the snowiest environment. So it's going to be very... I don't know, we have to probably very delicately handle it because it might get bogged down as soon as it tries to move. Yeah. You can see the vehicles are... vehicles have the same kind of line of sight, and you cannot... even the tank head is not able to cross the frozen river. It's pretty unfortunate. Yeah, so the next turn is going to be a lot of movement. I think the earth will rumble with the vehicles trying to move up, and I'm trying to use the northern group not to attack the flank, but try to get as close as possible to the river. And I'm doing this a bit of a weird movement order or command because as you can see, the infantry now hiding in the rocky terrain, and even though vehicles are able to pass through it, I'm afraid that it's going to cause a lot of vehicles to get immobilized because of the condition in the snow and yeah, and rough terrain. So I'm moving to try to avoid as much rough terrain as possible. Just keep it to the open ground. Yeah, so this is really no different here. I think these guys will see the action the last. So Tankhead should be able to move through some rough terrain without any problem because it's really light. But I just want to earn the side of caution once again and try to avoid rough terrain as much as possible. And here this guy is trying to move. I have not started yet. The T-34 finally starting to move forward, but it's being blocked by the other T-34. Hopefully he's able to move out. Okay. Yeah, so some tank rumbling through with infantry on top of it. I think, you know, the soldiers are climbing on top of tanks to travel. I think this is like Soviet specialty. I haven't really seen any Germans or Americans doing that in this game. Or, you know, other combination games like Beyond Overlord or even in Africa Core. I've seen only the Soviet infantry riding on top of tanks. It's an interesting tactic for sure. Going to work pretty well in this snowy weather because yeah, it's really hard to see anything. And look at that. They're getting full blast of the diesel exhaust. I wonder if it's really hot there on the top of tanks. And this guy gets bogged down.
By the power of Grayskull.
Oh, okay, it pops back up by the power of Grayskull. Or thanks to its regular experience. Okay, so it's going to be a common sighting here. Tanks getting bogged down and stopping its tracks, blocking the tanks behind it, creating a whole mess of congestion. And it's going to be another source of frustration. But that is par for the course, I guess, in this kind of weather. I'm just really thankful that I get to control some tanks. And yeah, able to support the infantry. And you can see the infantry now moving toward the river. I think I'm going to try to swarm that bridge area in order to take it. I wonder whether that is a good idea. Maybe it's just not going to really work out because it's going to act as a bit of a what do you call it, bottleneck. And this is probably the heaviest defended area as well, so I wonder what is going to really happen, but that's the plan for now. And here these guys were going to the flank, perhaps as the Italians wanted us to go. And then use the infantry and vehicles, armor, at the same time to smash that area, overwhelm them. Yeah, so these guys are making pretty brisk progress, as you can see. It's just getting out of that area, starting area. And tank catch up pretty fast and nimble. Unfortunately, the infantry cannot ride on top of it. Yeah. Okay, so T-26 or T-37? I don't know. T-26 is moving a bit forward, taking the point. Yeah, so they have arrived, as you can see. These guys are moving up a bit. You know, if the Italians can see these guys first, maybe they will launch an artillery attack. That's going to spare a lot of these guys where the rear attacks is going to come from. I think it may be useful to feint an attack in the north to try to draw some kind of artillery fire. But I don't know whether I'm going to attempt to do that. Yeah, so T-26 has arrived and probably going to move up. So just continuing on in the snow. It's going to take a few turns really to get to the destination where it could mount an attack. And it's going to be interesting how I'm going to be able to sync everything. It's going to really take a lot of different commands and orders in order to be effective in that yeah, in that plan. Definitely the southern force is going to arrive first and be ready to strike. These guys will take a few more turns to actually get to the destination and to try to support infantry. And these guys making across the road. Maybe I should order the rest of tanket to also cross the road in order to confuse the enemy. And you can see that there's a bit of congestion there, or there's a potential for congestion. And yeah, this is really graceful turning. Very graceful. Synchronized. They know a thing or two about driving tank, this guy. Alright, so the other guys are making their own move. And these guys already, yeah, getting a bit closer, ever closer to the road. Okay, so they're all synchronized. Pretty cool. Complete with the infantry on top. Maybe they're gonna like it on top of tanks because it's going to be also warmer. And that tank gets bogged down, unfortunately blocking like 4 or 5 tanks in its path. Luckily enough that T-34 is able to move past it, and the other T-26 simply moves that bogged tank away from it as it tries to make its way. Yeah, so that works, I guess. Maybe the tank can actually push it all the way. The KV-1 can probably push it all the way to the top. Okay, so the tanks are making its way. The tankets are going to the north. The tankets will get destroyed very quickly from any heavy caliber machine gun fire. I think it's even not as good as BA-10s. Now BA-10s are not going to really work here in this map because it has a tire instead of track, so I think it's gonna get bogged down and not be able to move in this kind of snow. I'm trying to use the T-34s to also join in the T-26s toward the flank. Here I corrected a bit of a tankette being confused in its movement order. And for the most part they listen to commands pretty quickly and move pretty well. Maybe the leader tank is giving them some kind of a command boost. Yeah, so you can see the T-26 is making its way. No problems here, not at all. No congestion, no bogged down tanks. Yeah, it's really smooth sailing. Oh, bogged down. Somebody got bogged down here, just as I stated. But I think it did push itself up. Yeah, so on the other side as well, the tanks are making its way, led by the tankette. And this is the tankette that are trying to go north, and this is where everything is congested. Yeah, you can see the congestion there behind, you said. The infantry arrived first. And these guys are now, yeah, getting the idea to go around it. Pretty cool. And some of them are pushing the T-26 away. Maybe it's going to help, trying to unbog itself. Followed by this KV-1 using the T-26 as some kind of ping pong ball. Going to be pretty embarrassing for that tank driver. I wonder if the unbuttoned tank actually is going to be useful in terms of its visible range or line of sight. I don't think it's going to be making a difference whether the tank is unbuttoned or buttoned in this case. You can see I'm trying to go around that rocky patch, yeah, right there, and I'm afraid that if I get caught there, especially trying to climb up the terrain, it's going to get bogged down and even immobilized in certain cases. I wonder if KB1 is able to actually climb out of some kind of incline in this setting. I think you should just stay on open ground and, you know, on flat land. Alright, so it's taking a long time, but we're, you know, finally making it to the front lines, or, you know, lines that is closest to the enemy. Yeah, so this is just pushing the T-26 away, leaving it here as well. The troops are transporting on the top of tanks. They're able to maintain some kind of balance as the tank is going downhill. Pretty cool. Followed by other T-34s. Right, so T-26 is going to get close as possible before the infantry also will try to mount an attack. And now these guys are following them. Alright, yeah. They're almost there. Oh, okay, so this guy's able to now unbog himself and he's ready to travel. I think we are almost ready to mount an attack, especially in the southern region. And you will see what I'm trying to do here. I don't think I'll be able to attack it like full frontal assault. Of course, it's going to invite the counterattack that is going to be really hard to get out of without being routed, and you know, a whole different mess happening. So maybe I should just try to attack it and then get the edge of preliminary attack in order to just, you know, use the advantage of better firepower. And here trying to get as close as possible. I'm sure that there's some anti-tank weapons here. I don't want them to see me right away, so it's going to be farther away from that 100-meter line of sight. Yeah, it's going to be very interesting where all the vehicles land up. I think I did give them right order to have the T-26s by itself, kind of in the forward position, followed by the T-34s, and the infantry on the side, and also the machine guns. So these guys are, the T-26s are waiting for the T-34s, and they're yeah, closing in as well, and also they're delivering the troops at the same time. And these troops are all regular troops and going to be mounting the first attack, followed by these guys now entering the rough patches, and these guys also arriving. They're getting a bit close to the rocky terrain. Need to be very careful not to get there and then get the tracks immobilized. Oh, okay, so tank was hiding there behind that KB1. Right. And this guy, yeah, this guy that has unbogged itself, trying to follow up. A bit of yeah, a bit of clashing of units. I think between tank and infantry is no problem. They can just slide past. This time the MG was able to make it before crashing into the tank. But here they're not so lucky. The tanket crashes into the KB1 very fully. I don't know whether it can extricate itself anymore. Right, so I think south we are ready to strike, and we are going to attempt to yeah, do some kind of a covering fire as we get as close as possible. Okay, so yeah, still waiting for the vehicle here to arrive. T-34 is almost there. Infantry is already in place, trying to target those two buildings overlooking the area. I'm sure that there are some defenders there for sure. Really is one of the better areas to entrench itself in order to defend the bridge. And here, giving hunt order. I don't know whether it's a good idea. I think it's a bit, I don't know, a bit rash, because the T-34s might not be able to join them. But I gave them pause before moving on the hunt order, so at least they're not going to make it full 60 seconds before reaching their destination. Here the tanket is trying to get away from the KB1, and he was able to do that. And the rest of T-26 and T-34s are arriving. Yeah, it's gonna take some time. And KB1 is not moving because I'm not so sure whether it's going to get bogged down here as it tries to climb up the incline. Really, T-34s are best made for this kind of ground, I think, because its wide tracks definitely help, I'm sure. And this guy is, yeah, kind of blocked. I can move up. Alright. Okay, so another T-26 arriving. And these guys have delivered these troops, and the troops are now trying to move up. And these guys now also moving up to face the defenders if they can identify anybody. Unfortunately, they can't because it's extreme weather, extreme visibility. Right, so the hunt begins. T-26s are moving up into that, I mean, you can see the line separating the higher terrain here. They're just about to cross it when the turn ends. Yeah, they're all in hunt mode now. And the infantry will try to get to that rough patch in front of them. And yeah, it's gonna take some time once again. There's really no wonder why the scenario is 38 turns, because it takes like half the turns before the fight really can begin. Yeah, it took like half of turns to actually get there, and I guess how you get there is part of the journey. Right, so we are crossing the road there. I have neglected to show exactly what is happening in the north, but I crossed the road. The Italians are none the wiser. And here I'm trying to open up the machine guns to, I guess, dissuade the defenders if they're there, as we move up the rest of the infantry. And here, yeah, moving also the infantry into the cover while the tanks are going to push forward. But not too close, because I suspect there is some anti-tank mines nearby. You can definitely see the barbed wire there on the side so that the infantry cannot go. They'll be blocked, but I'm sure that the mines will also dissuade the vehicles from actually trying to penetrate that side. So going to, yeah, have to use these areas to actually get to the road. And if you're on the road, paved road, then there'll be less chance of getting blasted by a mine, or at least we'll be able to see the mine before crossing it. Right. So the experienced tank moved first, T-34. the leader T-34 unit. Infantry also moving. Yeah. Great. Are they able to see anything? And these guys open up into the buildings. I wonder whether that's really helpful. Gave our position away, so maybe there will be artillery strike next turn, right in that position. So yeah, targeting a couple of buildings. Tank catch arrived, and one of them is going to move a bit forward in order to stop for us. Hopefully, it has brought its binocular. T-34s are climbing up the hill, going to deliver the troops in the next turn. Yeah, so I don't think they're visible yet, but they're close. And yet more barbed wire cover, so I think the setup here seems to be rather similar to the first attempt. And I think that's for the good of this LP or good of this player. Because I tried to follow through the initial plan then. Trying to use that area to blast through without, triggering the mines, hopefully. And then moving down or moving up the north slowly but surely. And you can see that the assault is going to happen in this turn 19, so this is when the actual assault begins. Hopefully we're able to identify some units and also get some infantry closer to the first objective. And also here, I think it has to wait a turn or two before the assault can happen on this side. To make sure that there'll be some infantry along with the vehicles. Right, so this is where everything will happen. The tanks are also doing area target just to make sure to suppress the troops as the infantry will move up the first building, and they will make their way down, hopefully to capture some objectives and also suppressing some guns and infantry defenders. And the T-26s open up pretty quickly. I mean, groups, it can prove to be a formidable amount of firepower in concentrated spots. And the tanks are doing really well, shooting at each turn, continuously providing this stream of suppressing fire. And these guys are now moving into open ground under the cover of this MG, and it gets shot. First unit gets targeted, so the Italians are opening up. They're hidden. I think they were able to see our units before, but they didn't open up. But as we were trying to push our case into their position, they're opening up, targeting the leader unit. I don't think it was hurt. And I also find the additional units here defending this building. I think due to the heavy amount of machine gun fire and also the shells, is trying to get out. It is suitably suppressed. And hopefully the infantry will make it at least near the building to capture it on the way to the first objective. And here the last of the T-26 is moving to the position. And the tankette is also moving forward. A brave tankette. And gets shot. I think that's anti-tank rifle that was targeted with. And have to decide where the shot came from. I think it's one of those two buildings just in front of us. So yeah, the tankette will have to decide whether to move. I think it's going to move a bit forward, while the T-34 and the T-26 is going to target the buildings in order to suppress it, as the infantry will move forward to move forward under the cover of this fire. Going to target these two buildings first. And while the infantry will move and try to take these guys will move toward this rough patch. Not right now, but this area is going to see some battle. And then I think the tank will move down in order to support the rest of the group there. So it has been the episode, I think the real episode, real attempt to play this Christmas battle. Hope you enjoyed it. Full fog of war, extreme fog of war, so it's going to be further confusing battle in store for next installment. Hope you can join me next time as well. Thanks for watching once again, and until next time, please stay tuned.